If a kid's texting and driving and runs me over, it's okay because I'm going to get a check anyway, baby. Yes, give me a check anyway, okay? You set yourself up. So there's two types of actual covers that you can get yourself. One of them is called disability, long-term disability. The other is short-term disability. Now it just depends on your situation and how you're doing with your finances, because let me start with short-term. Most times short-term disability is way more expensive than long-term. You can get these on your job or off your job. The benefit, let me give you a benefit before I get into the details. The benefit of getting it outside of your job is that it's not taxed. Yes. So if you have a $1,500 policy, they're going to give you a check for $1,500, which is great. You have to go through a great insurance company, get qualified, things like that, but you could get it outside of your job. That's a benefit. Let's talk about something else. Let's go. Short-term disability, what does that look like? Normally they have these things called elimination periods. An elimination period means that this is the time to where you're unable to work until they're going to cut your check. So that means you have to be off work for at least, some elimination periods are like 7 days, some of them are like 30 days before they issue your check. That's how an elimination period works. So with that, the short-term disability normally starts at a shorter period of time. It's a little more expensive and they pay out, it just depends on the policy. It could be 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, just depends on what's going on. But the short-term disability normally just starts a lot faster than what we call long-term disability. So what is long-term? Long-term disability is, it can still have short elimination periods or long elimination periods. Let's say 30 days is more of a shorter one. 90 days is more of a little longer, but you're in place, right? So let's say that long-term disability comes into handy, and then it could last anywhere from a year, 2 years, 6 months. That was kind of backwards. 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, up to age 67, whatever it is. But it's a long-term disability policy that'll pay you as long as your doctor says that you're unable to go to work. So these are a couple of different types of disability policies. Now, some people will say, well, Candace, now you talked about an emergency fund in one of your other videos. Should I just use my emergency fund if something happens? That's exactly what I tell you to do. You want to use your emergency fund, and I know I'm covering a lot of areas, but I'm wanting to give you a good foundation to make sure that you're protected and that your economic value is protected. All right, so let's keep going. So your emergency fund is there. So let's say your emergency fund is a mini emergency fund and you have your $1,000, $1,000 to $3,000 in your savings account. Well, that $1,000 to $3,000 could cover you for a short period of time depending on your actual expenses that you spend every month. Or you can have your major emergency fund, which is 3 to 6 months of your expenses. So that means that if your expenses are $2,000 a month, that means your long-term emergency should at least be $6,000 or 6 months back. Okay, at least $6,000 is your major emergency fund, which is 3 months of your expenses if your expenses are $2,000 a month. You get my point, right? So your emergency fund could actually come into play to where you don't actually need a short-term disability policy, and you could actually just save yourself some money and keep putting that short-term money into your emergency fund. Yeah, you create your own disability policy and actually use a long-term disability policy for something that happens drastic and you need to stay off work for a longer period of time. So this is how you protect your number one asset in your life. So your number one asset is not your car, it's not your home, and a lot of people think it's their homes. Lord, it's not. Homes are not even assets initially, but we'll talk about that in another video. But anyway, that's not your number one asset. Your number one asset is your ability to produce income. Your ability to produce income is your number one asset, and what we want to do is we want to make sure that you're protecting yourself in all avenues to say, if a kid's texting and driving and runs me over, it's okay because I'm going to get a check anyway, baby. Yes, give me a check anyway, okay? Now, this is the way that you protect yourself. So long-term or short-term disability, I'd like you, if it was me, right? If you were my client and I'm talking to you right now, I'd say create yourself an emergency fund for yourself. Create your own short-term disability policy so you have that. But if you don't have it just yet, go ahead and purchase you one so that you have it, right? Get it on your job, something like that. It's great. on-the-job coverage is normally less expensive, but it depends on what you're doing, right? But get it on your job if you don't have it. But I'd love to see you create your own short-term disability policy, which is the same thing as your major emergency fund in your life. So is your number one asset in your life protected? The number one asset in your life is you. And I want to make sure that that economic value, your $1 million, your $2 million, your $3 million, whatever it is that's in your household, is protected. That's very important, because it's not about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep and how you make sure that that money that you're making is protected, and that your number one asset, which is yourself, your mind, and the way that you go about things, is protected, and you have the things that you need in your life. So I'm super excited, rich friends. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you got some great stuff out of this video. So what did I tell you? Let me tell you again. Make sure that you understand or know what your economic value is. If you don't like your numbers, we have to get you a way to increase it. We can talk about that later on how to grow you some more revenue, right, in your life with building business income. But that's the first thing. Make sure you know what your economic value is. The second thing is to make sure that you're protected and that your ability to produce income, which is your number one asset of being you, is protected, and knowing what your job offers, Lord, how it pays you 60% if you go out on disability, and what really happens in those processes. And do you have the proper coverage? That's very important. And then number 3, be great, right? I can't remember what it was, but watch the video again and make sure you got it. But I really appreciate you all watching, rich friends, and I'll see you all later or in the next video and all that good stuff. Thank you. Oh, let me fix it. Wait, I messed this video up so much, but it's okay. I'm gonna do it again. I'm not shooting it again, but I'm gonna do this again. Candace here, of course, your revenue growth strategist, always showing you how to grow your revenue without using your labor. See y'all soon, rich friends.